What's up, guys? This is a new project. It's old YJ. The motor's supposed to be bad in it, and it's missing the transmission and transfer case, and so we're going to put a V8 in it. It's got the original 6-cylinder. It's supposed to be knocking, but I'm going to put a throttle body 350 Chevy in it. This project, it's been sitting here for a couple of years waiting to get done, so that's what we're doing. Stay tuned. This is the motor we're going to use. It's a throttle body 350 Chevrolet motor. It's this old greasy thing. That's what we have, and that's what we're going to use. And we're going to keep it fuel injected. The transmission, got a turbo 400, and got to put that together, change the output shaft, and that's what we're going to use. I'm not going to film that part. I don't know what the hell I'm doing, so we'll try to get that done. A couple of things I had to change was those big truck manifolds. They hang out too far, hit the firewall in the frame, and they just won't work on a Jeep deal. So what we ended up doing was getting some aftermarket Rams horns. These are kind of like the old Corvette ones or whatever. They got big 2.5-inch collector there. I'm one of those guys that likes manifolds rather than headers, so that's why we're going on this. Bolt them on there and never have to touch them again. Also had to get mounts. These are just kind of a universal mount they make for Jeeps. They're weld on. These will just get welded to the frame after we get our motor positioned to where we want it, and then the rest just bolts to the block right there and there. So we'll get those put on, and other than that, this thing should bolt in there. Alright, I got the transmission put back together. Pretty much what I did here was had to change the output shaft to a shorter output shaft. Here's the turbo 400 manual. Pretty much what I did was chose this shorter shaft here, and you can buy them aftermarket, and I don't know, it was $70 or $80, you know, for the shaft. Got this adapter. I think Advanced Adapters makes it. I think Novak makes them. There's probably several people that make these, but pretty much what it does is convert the back of the turbo 400 bolt pattern, and then makes it the standard 6-bolt pattern for you know, a lot of the newer style transfer cases, like this 231 Jeep transfer case that comes stock in Wranglers. You know, that adapter pretty much makes it to where this will just bolt right on there. Now the only problem with this is the input shaft and this Jeep transfer case is not the right spline count. So so what I'm going to do is take a 241 input gear, which has the 32 spline, and try to put it in this case, and you know, it will fit right into that turbo 400 shaft. There's a few things that you need to know about these. They have a wide bearing and a narrow bearing, and I think a lot of it depends on what year transfer case you had. Some, I think around in 1994, 95, 96, somewhere around in there, they changed the pitch on these teeth, I think, and the ring gear that was inside this transfer case. And so you need to know if you have an early or a late transfer case, you know, in order to get the right gear. Hopefully this works out for me. I don't know. I haven't had this case apart yet, so whenever I get it apart, I'll see if I got the right gear or not. But according to the tag on the back, you know, it had to have a date on them. I have the early style transfer case, so that's what I got, was the early style 241 input gear. And so we'll see if that works. That's what I'm doing next. I'm going to put this gear in the transfer case, and then hopefully I can just bolt that right on the back of the turbo 400. So I'll come back in a minute. Right, I swapped out that input gear, and as you can see, it bolts right up. And I still have it apart, but just kind of show you what I did here. You know, it's quite a bit different than height, but it allows it to go in the transmission farther, and they both have the wide bearing, and everything seems to be good. Now, one thing I wanted to note was this setup here will allow me to upgrade transfer cases later. You know, if you want to put an Atlas in here, or you know, spend crazy money on something that's better than this 231, you know, it'll be easy. Just have something that'll bolt right on there. That setup fits a lot of things. So we're using this 231 because that's what we have, and this is the cheapest way for us to get it on the road, and that's the goal for this project. So there we go. Right, everything worked out in my favor on that deal. Bolted right up. So a little bit of work, change the output shaft, change the input shaft, and she's good to go. We'll get the motor bolted on, and we'll be ready to put it in. First order of business was to pull the front clip off, and that way I can get it up close to the shop and get the motor out, and we'll have a clean slate to start with, clean hole. I got the motor out. Got a big clean hole here for, gotta get all this cleaned up. I'll have to cut these mounts off, that one and that one, to just torch them off the frame, clean all that up, and that's pretty much it. Other than that, that motor will fit right in there, and we'll get that done. That's what it looked like when I got done with the torch. Just need to grind down the last little bit there. This is the frame all cleaned up. Got rid of the motor mounts. Here I've cleaned up a bunch of the wiring, cut a bunch out. This is pretty much everything I was able to get rid of. I'm still not done yet, but you know, I don't need a whole lot of wiring out here. Of course, I'll have to integrate the throttle body wiring into the Jeep harness here, so we'll do that once I get the motor in. But we got it all bolted together, fixing to stab it in there for the first time. Right, I got this motor set in here, and the mounts welded on. I kind of had to turn my mount upside down because that's just the way it fit for me better, and so that's what I did. I had to add a little plate here too, because there was about 3/8 of an inch on either side. On my mounts, that's kind of what you get with universal stuff. They don't always fit exactly right, so my frame rails were a little bit wider, but you can kind of see over here on the back of the firewall, just have you know, a little bit of room back here around the transmission. Got plenty of room to put some fuel lines and stuff run up the back there. Got plenty of room to turn my distributor, take the distributor out if I need to, and I'll have plenty of room on the front for the radiator. I'll have, you know, a couple 3 inches up here clearance. So that's kind of how I did the placement of the motor. I also set the motor as high as I could in this engine bay and still be able to close the hood. You know, that way it keeps it up off the rocks and everything. The sun's gonna get to me down here, but you know, you can see the oil pan. It's well above the frame rails there. The tranny pan hangs down just a touch. Heck, it might be even. It's pretty close. This was the factory skid plate. That Turbo 400 and 231 tucks up in there. I still got to make a mount for the transmission, but I'll make a mount coming off of that skid plate there. The driver's side mount. Sun's gonna get me. Those These mounts are about the same, right side up or upside down. Either way I put them, they only captured about half the frame, so I still got to weld these on the bottom side yet. Get that done. Right, I think I'm going to end the video here. It's getting kind of long, and maybe I'll do a part 2. But do a part 2 of some of the other milestones, kind of like fuel plumbing and you know, the electrical wiring, getting the drive shafts hooked up, getting the front clip back on, and getting it started for the first time and stuff like that. But you know, it's pretty much in there, so we just got to finish hooking everything up and get it ready to drive. So thank you guys for watching, and hopefully this has helped somebody, you know, give you motivation to get started on your own project. Thanks.